A very powerful ruler, energized by Satan himself, is on the horizon. What he looks like and how to recognize him when he comes is the subject of today's Part 5 video session. The things I'm going to present today may not be found in history books because they are still in the future. But the validity of this was confirmed by multiple authors inspired to write on this subject. One of them was the renowned Apostle Paul. He wrote to a group of believers who were suffering. Their circumstances were uncertain and frightening. He wrote, "Let no one in any way deceive you, for it, referring to the end times, will not come unless the apostasy comes first and the man of lawlessness is revealed, the son of destruction." Before the end time comes, the apostasy, which is the falling away from the faith, comes first, and the man of lawlessness is revealed. He is also called the son of destruction. Pay close attention to the following description of this man and see how it compares with the little horn, which had eyes like a man and a mouth uttering great boasts, speaking out against the Most High, the one that will break the 7-year firm covenant and will put a stop to sacrifice and grain offering. He opposes and exalts himself above every so-called God or object of worship, so that he takes his seat in the temple of God, displaying himself as being God. What I didn't tell you earlier, and now is the right time to point out, is the following. The final king may only put a stop to sacrifice and grain offering when the sacrifice and grain offering are reinstated. And they may only be reinstated when the appropriate place for them is offered. It cannot be just any place. It has to be, according to the Jewish laws and traditions, a sacred place of worship. You got it. I'm talking about the Jewish temple of worship in Jerusalem. This temple, which initially was built by King Solomon, was the focal point of their identity as a people for many generations until it was destroyed, rebuilt, and destroyed again by the Romans in the 70 AD. Thus, their identity was trampled under the feet by other nations. Without their temple of worship, the Jews cannot reinstate their Levitical priesthood, nor can they reinstate the offering of sacrifices required by Jewish laws and traditions. The world today is radically opposed to Israel's claims of ownership of the Temple Mount. This site has been the most contested piece of territory in the Holy Land since Israel occupied East Jerusalem. This is where the 7-year firm covenant of peace will come into place. This final king must find a way to appeal to both Orthodox Jews and Arabs and grant the Jews the freedom to build their own temple of worship. But in the middle of the term, this wicked king, referred to as man of lawlessness and son of destruction, will take his seat in the temple of God, displaying himself as being God. Moreover, the one whose coming is in accord with the activity of Satan, with all power and signs and false wonders, and with all the deception of wickedness for those who perish, because they did not receive the love of the truth as to be saved. If you have a hard time believing that Satan exists, or for that matter, have a hard time believing in the existence of a spiritual realm, let me help you clear the smoke, so to speak. You do not necessarily have to see something with your physical eyes in order to prove its existence. I'm sure you would not dare touch an exposed electrical socket for the fear of electrocution. Even though you don't see electricity, you know it's there, in the wires. Can you prove to me the existence of a spiritual realm scientifically? No, I cannot. Scientific proof is based on showing that something is a fact by repeating the event in the presence of the person questioning the fact. It is done in a controlled environment where observations can be made, data collected, and hypotheses empirically verified. If the scientific method was the only method we had for proving facts, you could not prove that you had lunch yesterday. There is no way you could repeat that same event in a controlled situation. Thankfully, the other method of proof, namely legal historical method, is based on oral testimony, written testimony, and exhibits. Using the legal historical method to determine the fact, you could prove that you went to lunch yesterday. Your friend saw you there, the waiter remembers seeing you, you saved the restaurant receipt, and there is a stain on your shirt. You see, scientific method can be used to prove only repeatable things. It isn't adequate for proving or disproving questions about persons or events in history. This message that was revealed to Daniel is outside the realm of scientific proof. We must place it in the realm of legal historical proof, containing a written testimony. But if you listen carefully to this written testimony, you'll gain insight that you cannot find anywhere else in this book. It will open your eyes to a new reality, a reality that is always hidden from our physical eyes. Nevertheless, we must not be in a state of denial of spiritual things just because we don't see them. The Medo-Persian Empire was going strong, still being the dominant power in the world. Daniel has served under the Babylonian kings, he served under Darius the Mede, and he continued until the reign of Cyrus, king of Persia. It was the 3rd year of Cyrus, the king of Persia, that this message was revealed to Daniel. In those days, I, Daniel, had been mourning for 3 entire weeks. I did not eat any tasty food, nor did meat or wine enter my mouth, nor did I use any ointment at all until the entire 3 weeks were completed. Daniel was searching for answers. He decided to abstain from tasty food and humble himself in order to discern better what the will of God for him was. This continued for 21 days. By the end of this period, a heavenly being presented himself before Daniel. This time it was not in a dream. When Daniel saw this man dressed in linen, he saw the real thing. No wonder his knees were shaking together. Listen to this description. I lifted my eyes and looked, and behold, there was a certain man dressed in linen, whose waist was girded with a belt of pure gold of Uphaz. His body also was like beryl. His face had the appearance of lightning. His eyes were like flaming torches. His arms and feet like the gleam of polished bronze, and the sound of his words like the sound of a tumult. Now I, Daniel, alone saw the vision, while the men who were with me did not see the vision. Nevertheless, a great dread fell on them, and they ran away to hide themselves. So I was left alone and saw this great vision. The appearance of this heavenly being was so intimidating that Daniel almost fainted. And here is the kicker. Listen carefully, because you are going to learn about a reality you cannot see with your physical eyes, but it's there, up in the skies. Only keep in mind that this vision came to Daniel after 3 entire weeks of fasting. Then he said to me, "Do not be afraid, Daniel, for from the first day that you set your heart on understanding this and on humbling yourself before your God, your words were heard, and I have come in response to your words. But the prince of the kingdom of Persia was withstanding me for 21 days. Then behold, Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me, for I had been left there with the kings of Persia. Now I have come to give you an understanding of what will happen to your people in the latter days, for the vision pertains to the days yet future. Do you understand why I came to you? But I shall now return to fight against the prince of Persia. So I am going forth, and behold, the prince of Greece is about to come. However, I will tell you what is inscribed in the writing of truth. Yet there is no one who stands firmly with me against these forces except Michael, your prince." What an insight! A spiritual warfare was taking place. The good angel was on his way to bring a message in response to Daniel's supplication, when he was stopped by one of the fallen angels of Satan. It took 21 days for this heavenly being to get to Daniel. Michael, one of the chief princes, had to step in and help in this battle so the angel can finally deliver his message. There is a war in the heavenly places, hidden from our eyes, that affects what happens here on earth. No wonder same Apostle Paul exhorted the believers by saying, "Put on the full armor of God so that you will be able to stand firm against the schemes of the devil. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the powers, against the world forces of this darkness, against the spiritual forces of wickedness in the heavenly places. There is a war out there. You better be prepared so that you will be able to stand firm against the schemes of the evil. Remember how we started off this journey together? Number one, you've got to protect. Stand guard at the door of your mind. And number two, you've got to feed your mind with truth. The Word of God is the infallible truth. Once again, the angel confirmed to Daniel in this message of great conflict the sequence of Persian kings and the ascension to power of the well-known Alexander the Great. A new era is about to start. The male goat with a conspicuous horn between his eyes coming from the west is on the horizon. Hellenization of the entire world is at hand. We will have to stop now. Meanwhile, make note of Michael, one of the chief princes among angels. He will become a prominent figure at the end time. Just like he stepped in to help this angelic being deliver the message to Daniel, he's going to step in again to help a specific group of people during very difficult times, such as never occurred since there was a nation until that time. We are going to look at him again tomorrow in our last session together. You don't want to miss it. It's gonna be awesome. Peace.